It is, we're back with Alan Green, Alan W. Green, and I think that's important. There's a W in
Yes,
there, so we'll
please.
come back to that a little bit later on. It is the 2nd of July. We believe this episode will be released on July 6th. 250 years, Declaration of Independence, codes inside the Declaration, codes inside of our founding documents. There are reasons behind that. We're going to explore that. And what I want to do, Alan, is just kind of do a back and forth for a few moments before we decide exactly where we're going to go. So let me share a few things. You've been on the show March of 2025. So right,
25
2025
while I was in India.
in India. That's right. And you had a cold. I think you're recovering. You had a lot of
I
downloads
was
while we were.
dying.
Say again.
I was actually dying, yeah. I was
Dying.
in No, I felt like it. It's all right.
So we've had a lot of conversations since you, Bart, myself, and others sat down in Hollywood, had a dinner, fascinating dinner. I might want to talk about that as
I'm
well.
actually going to talk about that. I had it planned to bring that up, sure, because it's a
Perfect.
part of our whole journey.
And then there's been some discoveries that I think are connected to our conversation. And I want to talk about that today. And that has to do with the Platonic space and Platonic solid. So things I didn't know anything about before meeting you. I didn't understand how music and geometry were connected before meeting you and Bart. I had no idea the Grateful Dead had anything to do with our conversation today, or might have something to do with our conversation today.
Yeah, I'll bring that in just briefly. It's an
Yeah.
interesting story.
So there's so many things that we want to cover, but the most important thing, and I think we need to lead with this, is that we are one as a nation, as a civilization on the globe, in the universe, we are one. And that was the message you left with us the last time we had our conversation. I think that's a good place to start is we are one. The declaration means something. Can you take it from there, Alan?
Sure. Well, it's lovely to be back with you, and I've got a whole journey I want to take you on, and it's a journey of 22 years that have brought me to this singularly significant moment in time, indeed in history, the 250th anniversary of the birth of a new and wildly audacious experiment called America. And that's a huge panoramic journey filled, in my story, is filled with joy, disappointment, great good fortune, unimaginable betrayals, divine guidance, and demonic traps, and finally, a reward beyond all expectation that is best described as inestimable, and I'll explain that later.
It's a
So
big
I
word.
cannot and won't try to give you blow by blow, year by year description. It would take 22 years. But it's all there somewhere online, and I'm sure Brian will show all the necessary links at the end of the show, because you can catch up on this. The Bard code, Shakespeare decoded, Gaia, multiple stuff. It's all there. It's been 22 years. Instead, though, I'm going to give you broad strokes, the most pertinent highlights that I recommend. Also, you're going back to our previous No Way Out show, episode 113, in which I covered in depth quite a lot of the revelations that are in the Declaration of Independence. And actually, I don't think we knew it at the time that it was episode 113, that it turns out there's a very significant connection there. The 113 is important in the Shakespeare codes because the 113th day of the year is April 23rd, which is, guess what? Shakespeare's birthday, the fixed birthday of Shakespeare. And it's also the 113 is the center of the pyramid of the sonnets. Dead center is sonnet 113. And it's St. George's Day in England. I mean, it's all part of the
Wow.
code. But it just happened that our episode was 113. For
Mhm.
our purposes today, only the briefest of basics are necessary because I don't want to load you up with too much, but you need to understand, your audience needs to understand some of it. I'd say go back to episode 113, get a deep dive. But right now, let me give you just the basic understanding of why this book, The America Codes, Phase 1, had to be written, why it became
It's
necessary. And
awesome.
this is just a test pressing. But it's not available. It's on Amazon. It's sitting there waiting. But I have a release date set, which I will explain in detail later. Because in fact, the declaration was not signed on July 4th. It was signed on August 2nd. So we've set it for the book to get actually physically released on August 2nd. There's a
Nice.
strategy behind that, which we'll go into.
So, Alan, before we get continue here, I want to share with our audience something because some people are going to push back on the things that they're going to hear. And I want to lead turn with this first. And since you and I and Bart had that conversation in March, the 113th episode, there's been a lot of discoveries in the Platonic space by Michael Levin. And we've had Michael Levin's colleague, Carl Friston, on here, who came up with active inference, the free energy principle, which is explains how living systems engage with the external world. And I just want to share a few things for our listeners out there. So there is a new paper out there, and this is very important, and this leads into our conversation today. It's called Ingressing Minds, and I'm going to share my screen for a moment.
Sure.
It is Ingressing Minds. Let me try that again. There he is. All right. It is Ingressing Minds, Causal Non-Physical Patterns in Form, Natural, Synthetic, and Hybrid Environments. It's a mouthful, but this just came out in the last couple of weeks, I'd say in the last week or so. I'm going to share a few things from it because it's very important to our conversation today. It says that the relationship of mind to body is the same as math to physics, all right? We are not separate from it. We are patterns living in an embodied ecosystem. All right. Here's something that's very important. Patterns are discovered, not invented.
This is absolutely true.
So we are just, and in our last conversations you and I've had and Bart had, I've asked you this: when our founding fathers were in a flow state creating these documents, the Declaration of Independence, these things were flowing to them. Creativity.
It doesn't make sense any other way. They're tapping in, whether consciously or not. They're tapping in and they're getting it and they're putting it into a document that we now can see and are decoding.
Yeah, 100%. So it also says in this paper, bodies are pointers. So think that mind is pointers. We're tuning into something, right? And that's what I'm getting at is the artist, one who allows art to realize its purpose through him. Carl Jung said that, right? Great works of art and literature may be discovered, not invented, as with mathematical truths. So as I went through this paper and I looked at our conversation in the past, I'm saying, okay, let's suspend just for a moment. I'm talking to our listeners here. If this thing exists, this Platonic space, I'm going to share a video on our screen for everybody, by the way. Hopefully it plays. It's been a while since I've done this. Let's give it a shot, see if it works. Okay. Guys, I created this the last few days, and it's just a rough video of what's going on. It's Platonic solids going into Metatron's cube, generating our genetic heritage, our cultural traditions, our previous experience. This is Boyd's orientation with new information coming in from the outside world, going through this yin and yang, this creation, destruction and creation. We have to continue this world of reorientation. The point behind this is it connects to that Platonic space on the outside. So when we're talking about geometry, and I want to share some insights that I think may be true, I may be wrong on this. Our brains are expensive organs, so they have to reduce energy spend. And the way I think this happens, and I think what Michael Levin and others are saying is, there's this thing out there, these actants and agents out there in the universe that feed us, and we get a free lunch out of it.
What was that word?
It's actants. And I can look up the clear definition of it. So the three of us are agents, and there's these other entities that are actants. So we talk about this from time to time, and it's something I've learned recently and went back to look at. So the Platonic space, this geometry, this world out there that contains all shapes of the universe, and hopefully I'm saying that right, is feeding us because we're receivers. We're not just receivers, we're connecting into it. We're like antennas connecting into this external world. And that's what makes us one. So I wanted to start there because only through our conversations was I able to realize that this was happening. Because I asked you, what's the nature of creativity? Is it flowing through us? Do we actually create it in our brain? And I say it's actually, if we're all one, we're tapping into something bigger. And I don't care what it is. We're tapping into something, right? And we're channeling information.
There's a lot of charge to the word God, so we don't necessarily have to use that, but whatever you want to call it, energy, source, divine, whatever. But I think we can all agree there is something that is connecting everything else. The whole structure of the universe is incomprehensibly amazing. What did this? Not who did this, what did this? What possibly conceive of such a perfectly managed system from subatomic particles to macro galaxies, black holes? It's mind-boggling. right? But we're being actually prodded to understand it more clearly, honestly, through this declaration, what the founders left in it to tell us there's something miraculous going on, and you just got to wrestle with this. Because I'm going to show you some things that are purely mathematical and provable, purely geometric and provable. And then we slip into this other thing of prophecy, of them telling us things that are going to happen now, 250 years later. And they are happening right now in front of us. Politically, we can see it every day. So then you've kind of got to wrestle with that. Well, I don't know. What it comes down to, if I might just add this and then let you get back to what you wanted to say about the Platonic solids. Einstein, we all know Einstein, E equals mc squared. Okay, we all know that. We all know he's the greatest. Nobody understands relativity. I don't understand relativity, really, totally. But what people forget is he actually said, as a result of his discovery, yes, discovery of relativity and general relativity, he said, past, present, and future are actually a persistently stubborn illusion. And he said it's all wrapped up in this space-time in a fourth dimension. What he was saying is what all the great masters of Vedic philosophies in the past have said, and what science is now coming to the conclusion of in quantum mechanics, etc. There's only the now. And that's a mind blower because it's hard for us to understand. We think we're going through time, and I have a consequence when I turn right here and I didn't turn left. It's a little mind blowing, but we have to deal with it because he's actually saying, if you want to understand relativity, it actually means it's all it all is in this, wrapped up in this other dimension called space time, and it's there and it's just unfolding. Does
Mhm.
that mean we have no free will at all? I don't know. The great masters say, yes, you have a certain amount of free will, but there are great events that have already been planned throughout the entire cosmos. And this is one of them, the birth of a nation and the 250th anniversary. These are non negotiable, as I will show you later. 1776 is non-negotiable. It doesn't work if the year isn't 1776.
Mhm.
And yet that seems arbitrary. I mean, that's just a calendar, and we decided to call it Christ is 0 and, BC and AD and all that. But it's part of the whole thing. Other cultures have other maps for calendars. But this one is just telling you something. It's saying, it's so perfectly worked out. Chill out. Don't worry, it looks like we're going to hell in a handbasket. We're not. It's just a drama. As Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Well, Alan, I have to say this. I have young girls, 15 and 16, taking them through to Monticello to go visit where Thomas Jefferson lived, to see Sir Francis Bacon in the Rotunda, and see many of the people that you and I talked about who influenced Thomas Jefferson is a fantastic lesson in history. And then, of course, for our listeners out there, I'm wearing a shirt that I bought at Monticello, and it happens to have the Declaration of Independence on it today. It's kind
Wow.
of cool, right? So I don't know if, yeah. So right behind me, I have some stuff from Thomas Jefferson. I have a copy of the Declaration. I don't know if it's the one that is a true one or not, but there's so many lessons, history lessons I learned from talking to you that I didn't know that maybe I was shown when I was a kid, but can you maybe touch on some of those too, just so you can kind of re-educate and kind of set the setting for how and who created this document and then take it from there?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, this big, bold, beautiful journey is what I'm calling it, and that's significant and will make sense in a moment. It all started in 2023, July 13th, John Dee's birthday. Now, John Dee is the key cryptographer responsible for encoding the entire subterfuge around the mystery of who the true Shakespeare really was and why there was a cover-up. I'm going to go deep into that. You can find it online. Just search my work on Shakespeare. But you do need a brief recap, the basics, just so that we understand the foundations of what I'm going to show you. So let me share screen momentarily. So this is a famous. Let's just check. Are you seeing the screen? You seeing the transitions?
Yes, we see it. Looks
Okay.
great.
Okay. So this is an artist's impression of what happened on July 4th. And the document is there on the table waiting to be signed. And this is a clean copy of what it looks like. But in fact, all these signatures at the bottom, we all know that many of them were Freemasons. And Washington was, but he's out in the field. He did not sign it because he was prosecuting the war. But these three characters, Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, at the center of the whole event. Jefferson was himself an expert cryptographer. He actually invented a cipher wheel for his own personal use, but they were in a war. They had to have secret communication. They all had to know about cryptography. And of course, that just leads us to, well, we should really expect, so many of these are Freemasons, they are adept at cryptography. Maybe there's a Freemasonic code encapsulated in this. It shouldn't come as a surprise to us if there is. Now, this is the guy that wrote it out on parchment with quill and ink. His name's Timothy Matlack. He was a beer salesman. This is just recapturing what we saw in episode 113, but just for your current viewers, just so you can catch up. Well, he was called on to do this job because of his absolutely perfect penmanship. So, I want you to pay close attention. This is what the document itself looks like. It's utterly, it's just unimaginably beautiful. And yet, he makes extraordinarily two strange mistakes. And highlights it with a little chevron saying, oh, there's a mistake. He actually puts it says representative, it should say representative. And he goes, oops. And he puts a chevron and puts the EN above it, actually bolder than the rest of the writing. So they're not hiding anything. He's actually drawing your attention to it. And down here, another one with a chevron marking it, bolder than the surrounding. So people accuse the Freemasons of secrecy. There's nothing secret about this. It's there. But was it a mistake? Were they mistakes? Imagine he takes it to Jefferson and Franklin and says, I've done it, man. It's great. You have a look. And they say, well, it's okay, Tim, but, you can't leave two mistakes in there. This is the most sacred document we will ever create. This is our future. Our lives are depending on this. Could you pull an all-nighter and do it again? In fact, it's not. Don't worry. All these guys, the signatures there, they don't happen. It wasn't signed on July 4th. They couldn't get together then. It was signed on August 2nd. So he's got plenty of time to redo it, if they are indeed mistakes. So are they? I went to Jefferson's original drafts, and here you can see in his own writing, that part in red is actually abolitionist literature. He was trying to do away with slavery in the Declaration. People accused them and, they were slaveholders and all that. And yeah, they were flawed individuals, but he was trying. He was doing his best. It had to be removed because the Southern colonies just wouldn't go for it. It wasn't going to happen. We would not have had an America if he tried to keep that in. So he has to take all that out. But here's what the important part. Here on page 2 is that section where it says representative. I've sharpened it up so you can see it clearly. He writes repres and leaves a great big gap there, the EN missing. Well, that's interesting. It's just what Timothy Matlack ended up writing. And on page 3, answered, oops, only by repeated injury, the same thing. And there's a little marker at the side saying, Mr. Franklin. Is it saying Mr. Franklin told me to do that? I believe it is, yes, because they're in on it. It's not, this would not happen. The scribe would not just write what the boss did. He'd go to the boss and say, well, do you want to put that only in? And do you want to spell it right? They'd say, no, it's intentional. So you then go, okay, why do that at all? So this came to me, the intuition that it was a code, as I say, on John Dee's birthday. And so I knew I had to do something about it because I'm very, very in tune with John Dee, and he's been giving me codes for, at that point, 19 years about Shakespeare. So I thought, and honestly, I said to myself, oh, shit, I don't want to go here. I didn't want to have a whole new gig. I was doing other things. But I knew, okay, all right, I'll give it a shot. There's 3 ways to know it's a code. Number 1, How many characters is the actual declaration? Well, you got to count them. You got to go to the original. You can't take a PDF because they change the PDFs online and they think, oh, modern spelling, let's correct it so that people can understand it better. And the punctuation doesn't matter. It all matters. It's part of a code, if it is a part of a code. You got to count every letter, every punctuation, every number, right down to the very last dot at the end of honor. And when I did that, I found that it was precisely 6,771 characters, which is the precise mirror image of 1776. A dead giveaway that this is masterful cryptography. They're hiding something. But I still don't want to do it. I go, well, yeah, but does 6771 factor into a perfect grid? What's a perfect grid? It's a perfect rectangle and wide enough for them to hide when you put all the characters into a grid, which I'll show you in a moment. They want to be able to hide vertical messages that you don't see when it's not in grid form. In other words, does 6771 give you a perfect grid? And yes, it does. And here it is. And 6771 goes into it 111 characters across every single line, 111, all the way from the top down to the bottom to the last dot. Now, that's significant because it's a Freemasonic code in itself. It's the 1 in 3, the Trinity. And here's a symbol that the Freemasons use to indicate that. It's called a triple tau, the 3 crosses on Calvary, where Christ and the 2 thieves were crucified. They weren't Latinized crosses, they were just tau crosses, T's like this, much cheaper for the Romans to do it that way. And the Freemasons adapted a symbol that showed sort of a cross on the left and a cross on the right and a cross in the middle. 3 T's, they call it a triple tau, and it has a meaning. It simply is a secret way of saying the word given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai when he said, who shall I say sent me? And God says, Echeh, Asher, Echeh, I am that I am. And that's what that symbol means. And the Freemasons use it whenever they want to highlight something and say, this is sacred truth, pay attention. But the 3 T's also have Latin meanings, Latin phrases. I won't give you the Latin, but they just mean keys to the treasure, place where the precious thing is concealed, and Solomon's temple, Templum Hierosolyma, because it looks like a TH. Okay, so I'm convinced now by late night on July 13th, oh, damn, it's a code, I've got to go into it. But I'm still saying, well, yeah, but what are all these lines for? Why has Timothy Matlack put these lines between sentences, and they're all different lengths? Why, he's a perfect calligrapher. Why doesn't he make them all the same length? Why aren't they balanced? What's all that about? Some are 5 times as long as the smallest ones. But there's also sentences where he doesn't have those. Why does he put them in some and not in others? How many are there? Well, there's 33 of the lines, and there's 11 that don't have lines, and that's the 1 in 3 ratio again, the Trinity. Okay, so something's going on here. And of course, we all know that 33 is the grand master level of Freemasonry, the biggest secret thing of the whole shebang. So, okay, obviously it is a code, and so I had to go into it. But the question is, why these 2 mistakes are there, saying, oh, look, mistakes. When you connect the 2 chevrons, if those lines were not there, I've taken them out. Look what happens if those lines were not there. The connection between those 2 mistakes could be there, it could be there, it could be almost anywhere. But he's nudging them into place so that you get precisely this line. And that's a big clue. Why? First mistake, second mistake. You superimpose the Great Seal over it, and it is exactly the Great Seal of America, the slope of the angle of the pyramid on the Great Seal, which has not been invented yet. They haven't designed it yet. It doesn't come for another 6 years. And so what is that about? Well, they're Freemasons. What do they like? Geometry. What do they love? Triangles and Pythagorean theory. What is this triangle that it forms? It happens to be precisely a 12, 13, 5 triangle, which is just pure Pythagorean theory. It just happens to be the second of the important, what are called Pythagorean triples, a triangle that has only perfect integer size. As a quality, though, 12, 13, and 5, you add them together, the perimeter of that triangle is 30, but the area of that triangle is also 30. It's the only triangle that has that quality, the only primitive Pythagorean triple. So it's unique, and it is telling you, what's it telling you? It's telling you unity. The perimeter of the outside is the same as the inside, the area. There's a deep message there. Now, if we want to look just a little further, I'll be done with this, but these are basics you need to understand. What's written around that great seal that does not show up again yet for 6 years, annuit septis. Okay, it happens to be a code, an anagram, very simple anagram. It says capstone, unity. Unity is Latin for united in, or it could be meaning unit one. The unit one, go online and find out why I knew that was the foot, because it is, and it's something that I had discovered 10 years prior. But the unit one in the Great Pyramid is the foot. So it's saying the capstone and unit one. Okay, what about what's underneath? Novus Ordo Seclorum. Everybody will say, oh yeah, I know what that means. New Order of the Ages. Well, Seclorum, first of all, is spelt wrong. It should have an A. And it's also the wrong word because it means centuries. The word for ages is aetatis, and it would look the same on that scroll, and nobody speaks Latin anyway, so why not put the right word in? But they choose the wrong word with the wrong spelling because it's an anagram. Mer locus. Mer is the Egyptian word for pyramid. So there's pyramid, capstone, unit one, something is in the capstone. Locus, what does that mean? It's a Latin word. It means location. The location of in space. It's used for planetary bodies. It's used in geometry. Locus. So is it the sun's locus, sun's position? Is it the moon's position? We can make anagrams out of all these, and they love their anagrams. The biggest anagram we can make is our moon's locus. Okay, what's that about? John Dee wrote about it 400 years ago. Isn't it suspicious that the sun and moon look the same size in the sky when really the sun is 400 times bigger in diameter than the moon, but it's also 400 times further away. And so this curious phenomenon of they look the same size, which can give us perfect eclipses, which happen to be the way Einstein proved his relativity ultimately. And if you put the Earth and the moon size perfectly in ratio, this is what their ratio works out to be, and you make a triangle of the Earth's radius and the moon's radius, and you make a circle around that, what happens is that this circumference of this circle and the perimeter of this square are the same. This is squaring the circle, the age-old problem of geometry that is said to be impossible with a compass and straight edge only. Well, that's strange. How come that's just there in the actual physical sizes of the moon and the Earth? Very strange. We know that 2 pi r is the circumference of a circle, and if the radius is 1, it's just 2 pi. So if you've got a square that's half pi sides, they are equal. And that's what's happening with the Earth and the moon. That's curious. That's not a man-made code. That's a God code, if you want to call it anything at all. But beyond that, that triangle that defines that is the exact cross-section of the Great Pyramid. What a coincidence. I bet the pharaohs just thought, let's make it this size, and I bet it matches the Earth and the moon. I mean, no. So it's sun and moon and earth, which is embedded in Solomon's temple as a key to the whole thing. We know the Freemasons are fascinated with Solomon's temple, Templum Hierosolyma, TH. To come in from earthly consciousness, when you come to the temple, you want to get to spiritual consciousness, you must pass through Boaz and Yakin pillars, which represent the sun and the moon, and you go through, all the way through to the Holy of Holies, which holds what? The Ark of the Covenant. What's the name of the Holy of Holies in Hebrew? It's this. What does it sound like translated? It's devir. So, okay, that's a word that comes from the root word devarim, which is word, and it has its own special meaning of the original word, sound, the vibration at the start of creation. Om. It's vibration. sound at a higher vibration. It's light. It's all the same thing, but that's the first thing that happens at the beginning of creation in one reading from New Testament and Old Testament. I'll show you. So why they use these two little chevrons? I think they use them because they are an actual hieroglyph called the Artemis bull. It sometimes looks like that, and it sometimes is like that, a roof over a little square block. It's called the Apis bull. It's a hieroglyph. There are no hieroglyphs on Giza, right? None at all. Egypt covered in hieroglyphs. There's none on Giza. If I were the pharaoh and I wanted to say, hey, I built this, I'd have a freaking neon sign saying, this is mine, Khufu, right? But there's nothing there, except there is the biggest hieroglyph on the planet. It's right there at the original entrance to the Great Pyramid. It's literally that shape. Those stones are 800 tons each. This is the original entrance. You can't get in that way. You don't get in that way. This little thing is denoting, oh, there must be something there. And there is, and I went and found it. This is the original entrance. You don't get in that way. The tourists get in here, the little hole that Alma Moon made. So why are they showing us this? Well, I climbed up there. It's illegal. You're not supposed to go up there, but I climbed up there at night to have a look. And there's Adam Apollo behind me. The Apis bull. And I said there, the Apis bull. I don't know if you hear it on the thing, but I'm climbing up. So why? Because I knew I wanted to find this thing that's here in the little marker. And I found it. And it's a space that you can put your head in. And there are 4 letters carved in beautifully. And it's a pre-Hebraic, pre-Sumerian script that nobody knew how to translate, except one person, fortunately, and he did translate it because he was familiar with the Berber languages of the Sahara Desert tribes. And his name is Karl Prass. He passed, but fortunately he decoded it before. And it says Devere, which means the Holy of Holies. Wow. Okay, in a language that we don't even know. Well, of course, because that's what's left after you do Almon's locus. The rest of the letters that are left are Devere. So there's basically, we're caught up slightly, but it's telling you our moon's locus, that's our moon's location in relation to the Earth and the Sun. Is that what it's telling us? Because, well, I think it is, because if you remember, let's say, how many letters are there in that Great Seal? All that, well, there's 30 letters, which is the area and the perimeter of that triangle. And why is it a 12, 13, 5? 12 is the 12-month solar cycle. 13 is the 13-month lunar cycle. 5 is the basic building blocks of creation, the platonic solids. And you add them together and it gives you this 30. Something going on here, why they chose that particular triangle. So you end up saying, well, they're saying our moon's locus, our position of the moon in relation to Earth in unit 1, that's in feet, is going to give you Devere, the ohm. Wow. Is it? Well, you find the distance Earth to moon on NASA's website and you convert it, they tell you in miles, you convert it into feet. And then by sheer intuition, I was told, well, what do I do with that? Well, you probably want to divide it by 6771 because that's the clue they gave us in the number of characters. Let's try that. Divide it by 6771 and you get the speed of light to 99.9 accuracy. Is it balanced? It must work for Sun as well. The position of the Sun's locus in feet from Earth is that. And divide it now and again. I tried 6771, I tried 1776, but it turned out they give you a clue in the declaration, which I don't have time to go into, which tells you use both. 1776 times 6771. You divide it by that, and it gives you this number, which I happen to know from my work with Nassim Haramein. Oh my God, that's 1/√6. Anything special about that? Yes. It's the absolute ratio of a inner sphere inside an octahedron is 1/√6. The platonic solids, the building blocks of creation. But it's not just the octahedron sphere, it's the tetrahedron sphere. 2 times 1/√6 is the cube sphere. 3 of the platonic solids. What are the platonic solids? They're the building blocks of creation. Well, Genesis 1:1:1, right? Chapter 1, verse 1, line 1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." Well, what did he create it out of? Well, the building blocks of creation, I presume. The 1/6. Wow. So it gave you that. What does John 1:1:1 give you, right? Genesis is the Old Testament. John 1:1 is the first book of the New Testament. What does 1:1:1 say in John? It says, "Was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." The Word, Devere, the Om, right? The speed of light. They've embedded, and then of course there's the additional 1 in 3. Genesis 1 and 3 is let there be light. So that's you. You're caught up, and we can stop sharing for the moment. How
Okay.
do we stop sharing?
We need to take a breath because that is just so
That's a big
much.
chunk.
That's a
Yeah.
fire hose. And we've seen this several times. And even today, I just discovered something I want to share with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
get
just
this.
wanted to catch everybody up who's watching in case they hadn't seen 113.
Yeah,
Go for
yeah,
it.
but and it's a lot in that 20 minutes that you just went through, or 15 minutes there. I have a question, and this just popped up. I'm gonna get the name. I'm gonna say this wrong. It's the third is how do you say it? Seclura, Seclorum. Okay, and you
Novus
said it
Ordo
was
Seclorum.
and it's misspelled on the back of the dollar. It's missing an A, right? It should be
Missing an A.
SAE. Okay,
Yeah.
Just for what I want to share here is the saculum. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Is in the book The Fourth Turning. And I don't know if the words are.
It's not the same word that you're saying. Seclorum.
It's saculum. It's seculum. It's SAECULU.
Well,
So it's
that's
very close.
word.
Am I right? And
Well,
I
it's
don't
close.
know.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're related. I'm just saying when you went through that and you added the A and said we're missing that. Having met Neil Howe and read his book, The Fourth Turning is Here, that is a saculum is a length of time roughly equal to the potential lifetime of a person or the complete renewal of a human. Anyway, I don't know if they're connected.
It's a possible
Alan.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to go with absolute precision. It's not the same word. It's not spelled the same.
Okay.
So maybe there is an etymological connection, but it's not something as convincing as saying it's precisely spelled wrong and it's actually the wrong word. It's centuries, and you
Yeah.
don't want to build a new country based on centuries. You want to build it on ages. So everybody says, well, that's what it means, ages. But aetatis would be the word for you to use for that. But they chose the wrong word, wrong spelling, so that they could give you this anagram.
Okay.
Mare and locus. Yeah.
So you brought up a lot of connections. You went back to the pyramids, to the two chevrons, which I've seen on different Gaia specials.
I know. I just wanted to catch everybody up.
No, it's great.
You-
I just kind of recap some of these things things that I hadn't digested in the past. And then remember when we started with that little video I did of the platonic solids, I totally forgot about the connection to what you were going to share. That I think solidifies the connection again that, hey, we're
Of course it
looking at,
did.
yeah.
That's what
So
they're giving. They're giving us two things. Old Testament says heaven and earth, building blocks of creation. New Testament says word, vibration. Both things that happen at what we presumably call the Big Bang, right? It's the very start of creation. The moment we have a creation and we go into duality, those two things happen. That's the first thing that happens. We have duality. We have light and dark. And we have, of course, there's got to be some fundamental structure. And that is the Platonic solids. That's just the way it is.
can you just cover a little bit more about the platonic solids, how they may connect to geometry and music? Just a little background on that so our listeners can understand why I started with that earlier and what you're bringing back up again.
Well, that would be, yes, I can. How long do we have? I want to make sure that I don't go over.
We could go for, we get an hour, 20 minutes, hour, 30 minutes to go. We got plenty of time. No rush. Yeah. I want to make sure that there's so many things that we can cover.
Music is, in the Western world, we have this 12 half tones. And I could show you the circular version of that goes from C to G to D to A to E to B to F sharp to C sharp. It's part of what's called the circle of fifths. It's intimately tied up with the Platonic, Pythagorean theory first of all, and Pythagorean tuning, which is intimately it could show by various collages of images that they're all intertwined perfectly. I mean, it has to be. It's a perfect creation, right? So there are there are connections in the vibration. It's all, again, it's vibration, isn't it? Music. It's the vibratory tones. 432 is supposedly the tone we should be tuning A above middle C to. Orchestras are supposed to tune to A above middle C. They always do, but they don't use 432. They tend to use a different value, 450 or some other value. And there's a lot of argument currently about, well, they should be 432 and that's better, you know. But and then the conspiracy theorists come in and say, yeah, they deliberately change the tuning of all music so that we will be out of tune. Well, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But 432 does happen to be singularly very, 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 very important because 4.32 billion years in the Vedic scriptures is one day of Brahma. It is the length of time of one day. And they say, we have this creation that lasts 4.32 billion years. It's a day of Brahma. Then Brahma goes to sleep for a night of another 4.32 billion years, and then wakes up and has the second day of his life. And then the overall bigger thing is an entire life of Brahma. It's incomprehensible numbers, right? But what it's meaning anyway is that we all go on for infinitely long. It just goes on forever. There's no end. There's no beginning. But that's a bit too heavy for right now. Let's just follow along with what this beautiful journey is. Can I?
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate that patterns are discovered. So
They are
with
discovered.
music,
You can't invent that. How could the founders have invented, oh, let's make it be the distance Earth to Moon, and when you divide it by the inverse of 1776, let's hope it gives you the speed of light? I mean, no, but they knew it. That's the point. They knew it, and they pointed us to it to say, we're aware of this, and you need to be aware of it so that you can chill out and recognize, don't worry, there is a perfection in everything. And we're showing you that because we're also telling you 250 years from now, America and the world in general will go through a major, major crisis, which we are clearly in. And that's why they're pointing us to that in this 250th year. But they're also saying, breathe. It's all a drama.
So these cycles that you brought up, the day of Brahma, I brought up the fourth turning. That's where we are right now. What other cycles are lining up at the moment? And I'm talking about the fractality, the fractal nature of the universe is these things are cycling around and they start lining up. What other things are happening at this moment? Pick one.
I don't know. I just work here. What else is happening?
Oh, well, let's.
I spent 22 years on this one. I guess I could spend another couple of years finding out what else is happening. I mean, yeah, there's cycles everywhere, and it depends on which Vedic philosophies you follow and whose teachings. Some people say, well, there's precession of the equinox, right? And Sri Yukteswar, who is Yogananda's guru, writes about this in a book called The Holy Science, and he says, we go through 12,000 years ascending from the dark ages where we are burning books and burning people and burning knowledge, and we've forgotten everything, and we grow in our knowledge and our spiritual awareness until we go through the dark ages into what was called Dwapara Yuga, then silver, then gold, the higher ages, when we walk the planet like gods. It says we work with mental telepathy. We raise these stones by sheer sound, and we know the fundamental functions of how to operate energy properly. And then we forget it for another 12,000 years, and it comes down and down and down. It's all cyclical. That's a 24,000-year cycle called the precession of the equinox. I have a whole presentation on that, but it's a deep dive, but it's quite simple to follow. And it really is all to do with this relationship of the 5 and the 6, which I think I showed you in some other thing. But again, we're getting off track, and I don't want to.
No, I think we're on track because the point again is there's these things that we're connected to in the universe, and they repeat, and we call them attractors. It could be affordances. It doesn't really matter, but we're all connected. We're all one. You brought up, the past, the present, the future is all the same, and that's the way I understand it. But I'll order. It's overlapping, right?
It's inaccurate to say it's all the same. There is a past, there is a present, there is a future. But what Einstein is saying, and what Vedic philosophy is saying, and what quantum theory is now saying is, wow, it's really all one, and it exists only now. There is real, we are incarnated in physical bodies to play out this drama. But those who are, well, this is a mouthful, those who are ascended masters who've already got there, whether that's Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or Moses or whatever you want to say, and they all tend to tell us the same thing. They say, it's now, right? Be here now, what Ram Dass wrote, to be here now. That's the only thing that you can rely on. That's the only thing you have any control over, right? It's just now. The past is gone, present hasn't happened yet, and yet it's on this flow that is, that we've just shown you, is embedded in the basic building blocks of creation. And it's to do with the position of the sun and the position of the moon and the position of the earth, which is mind-boggling in itself, that those bodies are floating in space and following certain rules of orbiting, etc., and they come around to tell us this basic truth, which we didn't know. Nobody knew that we could find the speed of light by dividing, the distance Earth to Moon by 1776 in reverse, but they're showing us that. Why? We want you to understand there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in your philosophy, as Shakespeare says. It's all mind-bogglingly worked out into perfection, but we just don't normally think that way. We're not thinking that way right now. How am I talking to you? How are these electrons passing from here to
Mhm.
you through Riverside? Or we could be speaking to Pakistan or Australia, and we do all the time, and nobody thinks so bit
Right,
about it.
right.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. But we don't think that way. We don't go out and go, "Oh, I'm surrounded by miracles. My little pinky is electrons, and they're operating perfectly all the time." I mean, we don't think of it. They are trying to remind us to think of it. That you are so beautifully constructed. You have no idea the care and love that went into creating your pancreas and your liver and your
Mhm.
digestive system and what's going on here and this is happening here and my iPhone and my right and Bart sitting there with the ocean behind him. There's no ocean behind him.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
there's
how did he
and
do
there's
this?
yeah, and there's that connection back to the platonic space that people are looking at, and that's how these things are emerging. It's not by the way, it's not an emergent property. They're not saying that anymore. They're saying these things are designed on purpose. So I want to switch gears just briefly because I think it may
Hey.
not be brief, but let's share out
Well,
why the three of us came together. And I'll start my
I'm going to get
story.
to that. That's my next
Yeah,
thing on my
yeah.
presentation. Yep.
Okay, well, okay. So I want to kick it off here because this is funny. This is not funny, but I think people ought to know a little bit about our background. So Bart's on the call with us right now. Bart and I were in the Tomcat community together. He was my instructor. I knew Bart. He was a few years ahead of me. 20 plus years later, I get an email from him, a note that says, "What are we going to do about this?" And I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I can do about anything. And that was about the time that, and it's about the time that Slider, Mark Keller, and I went down to Mexico after the folks that created Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions started the kind of the movement that's happening today with ibogaine and DMT. So my experience with this, not new age of thinking or anything, it's just opening up your mind, reorienting, is partially created by that experience down in Mexico, where I got to experience something that not a lot of people get to do through ibogaine and DMT, and that brought Bart in. And the next thing you know, Bart's talking to me about sacred geometry, and I'm like, I'm all in, man. I'm like, I've seen these things. I know what I think I know what you're talking about. And then I get a call about, hey, I got an introduction to this person through Wendy Weir, and I'm like, who's Wendy Weir?
Yeah.
And of course,
Me
that's
too.
me. I'm not a deadhead. I know nothing about the Grateful Dead. And then Bart, do you want to pick up the story from there, and we'll hand it back to Alan to take it?
Sure. So, Alan, this is incredible. I've been quiet, Ponch, simply because I really, believe it or not, have nothing to say. If I'm going to say one thing, I want to make sure I get it out there that we thank Alan for, because I've had a firsthand look, very unique opportunity to see the dedication that he's done in bringing this to the world. So, Alan, please accept my thanks from all of us.
Sure.
Incredible.
Thank you.
And then at the same time, Punch, I'm going to thank you because we did get together about 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was, and you provided me the opportunity to go down to Mexico, and it changed my life. And then you're the one. I was thinking about it this morning as I was taking my walk. You're the one person, and Alan, that'll let my brain dump and talk. And so, just for the listeners, Punch and I've probably talked 3 to 5 times, if not every day, for the past couple of years, in the conversation are just mind blowing, and they've been enjoyable. And so thank you for letting me be on this podcast with you, because it's extremely special. But I was sitting at my desk. So I've studied sacred geometry, music, Kabbalah, all this stuff for 25 years, as soon as I got out of the Navy, pretty much. And, when you start going down, you look for experts, and Alan's an expert in many fields. So I knew of Alan, and I put my name on a list and emailed him. And literally Alan, probably about 3 months prior to the election with Vice President Harris and President Trump, I got the ping America codes. And so I watched the first video. And as a veteran, I said to myself, I don't think we knew what we took an oath to, because the information that's really inside of these documents is extremely powerful. And it's world changing, and we're all one. And so it would change our idea of what, serving in the armed forces of the United States of America meant, if we understood what they were really trying to push to us. But we weren't ready for that. So I emailed Alan back. I run a little nonprofit where we take veterans surfing. And it actually went to Wendy Ware. And I said, hey, this is unbelievable. If I get some people to watch it, maybe, throw a couple bucks, couple shekels toward my nonprofit. And Alan's like, do it. So Wendy is communicating with me, Alan, and she's like, Alan says, do it. So, that was the beginning of the relationship. I now have an unbelievable relationship where, in fact, Wendy and my daughter, Maddie, we're getting on a call after this. I've done over 6 harmonic egg sessions with Wendy. We're doing harmonic egg sessions with veterans. We're up to almost 15 veterans per session. She's an unbelievable angel. So basically, I just wanted to meet Alan. I've been going up to LA for these AI meeting groups. And I said, hey, Alan, I'm Bart, and you want to meet? And the first time I met, I gave him a hug and almost broke his back. And since then, I think we've created a true friendship.
He's a strong guy. He's a strong guy. I'm pretty frail, and
Big guy.
Trust me.
But,
well, I want to get into that. I want to get into that when we 3 got together.
Yeah, I'm done. So that's how it happened. I just reached out, and now Alan and I have created a tremendous relationship. And honestly, Ponch, I don't have anything to say, believe it or not, but thank you.
You too.
I'm just tracking. So that's how it happened.
Yeah.
It really has been an incredible journey.
Well, I think everybody needs to strap in for what Alan's going to take us on now. So let's go.
So I need to tell you about something that sounds like a detour, but it's not. I make no secret of the fact that I am a devotee of Paramahansa Yogananda. I've been doing Kriya Yoga for 45 years. It's a technique of meditation. I don't proselytize, but people often ask how I get this information, or maybe they're just interested in what meditation that I practice. Everyone has their own path. I'm not here to sell you any religious belief structure, but for purpose of this story, this journey, it's pertinent to know that many of Yogananda's devotees are attracted to this person who people believe is a living incarnation in India. Her name is Amma, and she's known as the hugging saint. And again, don't have to believe or anything, but my own daughter lives there in that ashram, so I went to stay with my daughter after I'd done the America Codes 22 video courses, in which I'd created a unique video every 3 days. It was 10 hours of material, and that's what Bart is talking about, having seen that. And it took us right up to the election eve of November 4th in 2024, when, of course, the next day we watched the puppet show and saw who was elected. Now, I, again, cut this shorter than I intended. I go to India to have a rest. My daughter lives there. I had the occasion to go once before, and Amma is this very special person. Whether you believe she's divine or not is immaterial. She literally has been doing for 50 years hugging people. She has hugged an estimated 40 million people. And when she goes on tour, 100,000 people come and visit her. She'll hug 50,000 people and be on stage for 30 hours nonstop. What does that mean? Well, what is a hug? Well, she's not giving you more than a hug. She's literally sending vibrations through your body of her own divinity, if you believe that. Don't care if you do or not. I've seen her in operation, and here's what happened to me. So I go there, and it's called darshan, when you go and have your hug. And I went there, and I wanted to honor the fact that I believe she is an incarnation. So I have this book, Decoding Shakespeare, my first book that I wrote about John Dee giving all this information to me through meditation. And I just held the book up in front of her. Now, a darshan hug can last anywhere from like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That's pretty average, something like that. Very rarely does it go to a minute or more, but it depends on how Amma is feeling and what the devotee particularly needs and the grace that she wishes to bestow. So I stand in front of her and I say, The divine wrote this book through me. I honor the divinity in you. I am giving it back to you. So I give her my book. She gets so excited. She looks at the book and she's going page by page by page. And oh, look, I mean, the whole book. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't expect this. And she's talking to her assistants and going, ooh, look, 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 look. And her assistants are going like, oh, they're suspicious, like, well, so what? He wrote a book, Amma is liking it, but I'm in charge here. I'm the brahmachari. And one of the brahmachari says to me, so is this peer-reviewed? And I was starting to form in my mind how I could possibly answer that question, which is, how can it possibly be peer-reviewed? This is totally new information given to me divinely by Yogananda. I'm sorry, whether you believe it or not, it is. And I have for somebody to be able to peer-review it, they'd have had to have gone on the same 20-year journey that I'd been on. This night that I had the darshan was the 20th anniversary of the tsunami that hit in 2024 and killed 230,000 people. The worst natural disaster on record that we know of in history. It engulfed Amma's ashram then. She was aware of it. She told people beforehand that it was going to happen. And she said, get to high ground so that you're not in the flood. But terrible disaster. So this was Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. I'm having darshan. And it's the 20th anniversary of that. And she reaches behind her and she pulls out this book, which is the story of that tsunami. And it's her own book with her own notes in it, and she gives it to me. She takes my book, gives me her book about the tsunami. Now, I don't know if you felt this. I feel it all my life. I feel, how unworthy am I? I am not. I'm a sad devotee. I fall off the wagon all the time. I am not. How good a devotee am I? What does that mean even? But, the feeling of unworthy. This is the divine, and I'm just this little shit here. We all feel it to some degree. I wrote about it in America Codes. I'll just read you briefly a section where, no, I won't do that. Sorry. Simply, nobody feels worthy of thinking of, I can be friends with the divine, right? So I'm not there yet. Maybe I know I'm sacred and I know I'm divine, but I'm not that good, right? I think everybody feels that to some degree. So and I've always felt that with monks and nuns and whatever. I always feel they're so holy and I'm not. It's just a delusion. But when I was with her, and this darshan now is not going for 10 seconds or a minute, it went for like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and she's comparing my book to her book, and I feel stuff coming back, and as I feel inwardly none of that awe of, oh, I'm so unworthy and you're great and I'm not. I was holding her hand and all I could feel, somehow she just made it all disappear. We are just old friends. Yes, I'm in divine consciousness. Yes, you're not. But we're the same. We are one. So that was happening. And at the same time that she gave me this book about the tsunami, I could feel inwardly she was saying, your work is about the coming tsunami, not necessarily an ocean tsunami. I could feel it. The same way I get downloads from Yogananda, she's saying there is a tsunami coming of political and cultural and emotional and, economic impacts. And that's what's happening, right? With this man in the White House. Okay. And I don't say that politically. I'm just saying that's his job. He's doing his job. Like it or not, he's doing a certain job to destroy America. All right? Bring it to ashes so that it can be rebuilt, I believe. That's what the declaration is telling us. A year before, I had had an accident on my 75th birthday. I was dancing too much, doing my Saturday night fever moves, and I fell down and I broke my rotator cuff. And I had an MRI and it said, you have no rotator cuff. There's nothing to fix. It's completely shredded. It's gone. And I went to a surgeon who said, you have to have a complete shoulder replacement. There's no way. And that I had limited movement at that time. All I could do was this. That's all I could do. And after a lot of physical therapy, by the time I'm in India, I could do that because you have no rotator cuff. You've got a deltoid. You got that, but you can't. the surgeon said, you got it. And I kept on resisting. I don't want to have the surgery. And I could feel Yogananda saying, you don't need it. Don't do the surgery. So I come away from this darshan with Hama, and I know she's telling me your work is tsunami, and I don't know what it means yet. And I get back to my apartment, and I sit down on the bed. I have no rotator cuff. That's impossible. But I was spontaneously healed. I went from less than 90 degrees to 180 degrees, and I had no explanation for it other than she just did that. Silent. She didn't say it. She didn't make a deal out of it, but I was healed. Just to show me that what you're feeling is real. We are friends. We are one. Forget this delusion of you're an unworthy devotee, and you've got a job to do, and the job is I gave you this book so that you know what your job is. So I then go, and we then had our podcast, and I didn't go into this part, but I'm going to show it to you now and show you, because I knew she was saying tsunami. Tsunami is important. Share screen. Tell me if it's working. I did not set it to go immediately with play, but are you seeing the transitions?
Not the transitions at the moment. If you want to set it up for play and start there, we can try that.
Now? No?
I can see it, but it's the same situation we were in earlier.
Okay, all right. So it's okay.
Yeah.
So I will unshare, stop sharing. I will set it to be already playing, and that's the solution. And we're in this one, and we are set there, and it's in play mode. And now I'm going to go and share screen. Glad we got this worked out in advance. This is great. So now, just tell me now, you're seeing full screen of that,
Yes.
and you see
Looks good.
Transitions happening. Okay. So those are the two mistakes. Here's Matlack. There's Jefferson. Where are these mistakes made? This is a little bit of the math. I didn't intend to start here, but I will anyway. It helps for us to understand they are Freemasons, and they are saying, we build with perfection. That's our core belief. We are engineers at bottom. We work with precise Platonic solid numbers and all this. And when we build a Gothic cathedral, it wants to last, it wants to sustain, and it won't sustain, it won't stay up if it's not built to utter perfection of engineering standards. So when they build a document, whether somebody's going to see it or not, they want it still to be perfect mathematically. Why not? Is anybody ever going to see this? These signatures. My question here is, why did Matlack leave that much space at the bottom for these signatures? I mean, couldn't he have made it, I don't know, that much space? Or this much space? But he chose that much space before they'd even signed. So there must be something significant about where he's placed these two mistakes here. And there is, because when you measure, and I'm measuring with pixels, which is far more accurate than just, a tape measure, 391, 672 from the bottom. And here's the other mistake, which is these numbers. Are they significant? Yes, they are. That's the golden ratio. That has been placed from top to bottom at precisely the golden ratio. Is that an accident? Maybe, maybe not, but it's saying that this space down at the bottom was specifically made to be that amount of space, or that wouldn't work. But the other mistake up here is Euler number -1, which is something I had proved 10 years ago, that the cubit is E -1, and it's embedded in the Great Pyramid, and you can go and look at that online if you want. But why? It's precise geometry. It couldn't be there. It would all fall apart. Those mistakes cannot be there. It would fall apart. They have to be here. In other words, he's worked it out. Whether it was seen or not, it's got to be perfect, because he's saying mathematics is the fundamental basic building blocks of creation. Those ratios are to do with the Platonic solids. And Ben Franklin was a math genius, prodigy, who then made sure that when this goes into the grid, which you see on the right-hand side, the 111, 111, 111, where do these mistakes end up in the grid? Where do they end up? And it turns out they end up here. So let's see what line that is where the first mistake occurs. It's 22. 22 lines down from the top, and the bottom one here, the second mistake, is 14 lines up from the bottom. That is the ratio, 22 to 14, of the height to base of the Great Pyramid. It's pi over 2. That is worked out in advance. Or, Alan, it's just a complete coincidence, and you're nuts, and you've wasted 22 years. No, it's, it just goes on and on and on because it's defining pi over 2. Well, okay, that means there's, how many lines are there in the middle? Pi over 2, remember when I showed you moon, earth, that's how you square the circle by perimeter. It's one of the ways of squaring the circle, which is fundamentally important to the Freemasons because they build their whole engineering on utter perfection. So now let's look at the 22, the 25, and the 14, the ratios of these numbers, which Franklin has worked it out so that they will end up in the grid here. Let's take the red and the green divided by the purple. It gives you that, which is 1.44, which is 6 squared over 5 squared. That's just basic Pythagorean theory, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, all that. But the purple and the green divided by the red, that gives you this number, which is the square root of pi. Okay, what's that? That's how you square the circle by area. And this one, the last remaining possibility, the red and the purple divided by the green, 47 over 14, stick a pin in that in your head in a moment. It's a constant that happens to be called the inverse Fibonacci. All those Fibonacci numbers in red, but inverted, you add them all together up to infinity, and it comes up to this 3.357, which is called this inverse Fibonacci constant. Okay. Besides that, besides the lines, what is also happening in the actual letters, the wording of what is there? Look at the top, representative, the en is there. What do we see? Well, repres and tative, maybe they love Latin and they love anagrams. And is it a Latin anagram? Yes, it is. It's per veritatis, which means through truths. And the other one at the bottom is only. It's telling you only through truths will you understand what this is, why this is hidden in this way. Okay, what is there? There's a triple tau. Remember I told you they use it to say, this is sacred, this is divine truth. It's the name of God, the secret handshake of the Freemasons, the triple tau. Okay, what does it take for Franklin to work this out, to say, I'm going to make sure there's a T there and a T there and a T there? Okay. Think it through. It's a lot. Right next to it, it says the word, anagram simple, the Pope. Okay. Is it anything to do with this guy? Well, it turns out there's a name attached to it, and it's Leo. And then you think, okay, in his first homily, the first day after he was elected Pope, he spoke of, my mission is to restore the faith of millions. And he vowed to make the church a sign of unity. Those are his very words. I restore, sign of unity. Straight up from representative is a perfect vertical line that says, I restore. Right next to it is a vertical line that says monas. That's John Dee's monas, which is his symbol of unity. John Dee's Monas in the Monas Hieroglyphica is a symbol that is made up of the moon and the sun and the earth and the basic signs of the zodiac, the building blocks of creation. And it comes from this, the IHS symbol of Catholics is an actual, it's developed by St. Bernardine in the 1400s, where he took the triple tau, ancient symbol, the triple tau, way, way before anything else. He just shifts the line to make it a Christian cross on top of the H, the TH, and then they add the in hoc signo. It becomes the sign of the Catholic Church, but it's really the triple tau. And there's a triple tau connected to that, saying, yes, you're right. This is intentional. This is sacred truth. Okay, so he's the Catholic Pope now. I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church particularly. I'm just relaying what's there. I just work here. It's a triple tau symbol, and he's saying, I'm going to restore unity, monas. Well, right next to it is another perfect vertical line, and these words, first U.S. Pope, and he is. And the two parts that say Pope are connected by 14 letters that are all connected linearly to each other that say he is Leo the 14th. Now, you can just say, I don't want to know about this. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I can't handle this, because that's not possible. Franklin did not do that intentionally. Was he being guided? Maybe. There's a cross that goes down right through the Pope that says something else. Sum, that is Latin for I am, Saint Augustine. Well, Pope Leo happens to be the first Augustinian Pope. There's never been a Pope who followed Saint Augustine. That's his that's his way, and he didn't want to be Pope. He wanted to just be a monk meditating all his life. But he ends up being the Pope. He's the first Saint Augustinian. And there's another block of letters that say the whole word, sum Saint Augustine or Santo, a Spanish word, because Saint Augustine was a Spanish, what was it? St. Augustine, 1565. St. Augustine, Florida, was founded on September 8th, 1565, as the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the U.S. The first documented Christian marriage in the continental U.S. was between a white soldier and a black woman from Spain. The first ever Christian marriage documented in the continental U.S. Think about that. Why is Franklin, why is he pointing to St. Augustine? 100 years later, the same place, St. Augustine, 1740, they've built a fort called Fort Mose. What's its purpose? It's the first legally sanctioned free black settlement in the United States, established in 1738. It was built as a fort and town for formerly enslaved Africans fleeing British colonies. A sanctuary city where slaves who escaped from the Carolinas could come down to North Florida and be protected. They're saying we didn't manage to do it in 1776, but we're letting you know that this country was actually formally built on interracial marriage. That's fine. We abhor slavery. We are a sanctuary city. And it's called St. Augustine. And this new pope that comes in now is a St. Augustinian. And he has a cross going right through Pope Leo. So wrap your head around that and think, okay, Alan, you've jumped the shark. What else is there? Let's connect all the letters that have not been connected here in this pure vertical line. And it says Fort Mose, the sanctuary city in St. Augustine. Now, if that's not enough, let's set that aside. What else is here at representative? Straight up, a block of letters, all connected perfectly, that says President Donald Trump. Okay, and right down below it, a pure, straight Christian cross that says Trump's USA, with even the apostrophe. And there's no doubt about it, we are in Trump's USA right now, right? Any objection to that? That's where we are. We're in Trump's USA. Okay. Well, it's connected with a triple tau. They're telling us this is sacred truth. This isn't a mistake, whether you like it or not. On May 2nd, he actually said, I'd like to be Pope. And he posted a picture of himself as Pope. That would be my number one choice, he said. And crossing Trump's USA cross is the Pope. But then 6 days later, Leo is elected. And of course, we've got this whole thing that we've already seen. He's Pope Leo. And that triple tau connects both President Trump and Pope Leo. And you place this across and you see there's no duplicates. It is literally, they connect to each other by the two triple taus. They are intended to be one functioning symbol. He is Leo the 14th. He is the first U.S. Pope. I restore monas. All of that is there. But in this cross here, you can see it as either Trump's USA cross, or you can see it as St. Augustinian cross of the Pope at Fort Mose, and the principles that this country was truly originally founded on long before the Pilgrims, long before King James and Jamestown, when it was the first settlement, St. Augustine. And they interlock as though there's a battle going on between these two. Look at it. Is it him? Is it him? And that's what's going on. It's happening right now. He's attacking the Pope, saying, stay in your lane. You can't be talking about... Hegseth said he should read his Bible. For God's sake. I mean, and yet Trump is posting pictures of himself as a Pope, as Jesus, as... Right? He wants to... This idea of the war between church and state is being broken down intentionally. He wants to be in charge of both sides of the story. Which of these crosses is going to win? This is a battle. They are literally, but if you add just 3 letters around that cross, I'm going to fade out everything else so you can see what it says. It says, spur a tsunami. Is to incite to action, to accelerate growth or development. Incite to action, a tsunami. Exactly what I got from Alma, where she said, your work is about this coming tsunami, which is we are going through right now, this crisis. Now we look at the second mistake, because that was just the first mistake, and down very quickly, down at the bottom, answered by the same thing. Pope Leo connected with an N that seems to break it up, but no, it's President Trump, answered only by a little cross here that says Freemasonry. We're giving you this truth. We're the ones embedding this to tell you that this is by authority of the good Pope Leo, and his entire name is Prevost, and that's his birth name, Robert Francis Prevost. That's the pontiff's full name, confirmed again by a triple tau to say this is divine truth. I mean, this is impossible, I know, but it's there. And so you think, okay, it says the Most High above his name, but forget that for right. I don't, whatever. It just goes on and on. Some of it might be not necessary. But there's a block of letters here, 9 letters in a basic block that says constant, in the French spelling, constant of Prevost. And it's French because there is a constant known as Prevost constant, named after a scientist who's French, who did work on this, the inverse Fibonacci, which is all about the basic geometry of the universe, this Fibonacci constant. Why put that in the declaration, Prevost's constant? There's 47 letters at the top, the 22 plus the 25 surrounding the first mistake. There's 14 at the bottom. Leo, 14. Trump, 47th president. The actual name of the inverse Fibonacci constant is Prevost constant. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
That's just a lot of fun too.
I mean, it's
there. That's what you're saying. It's not there.
It's there.
Yeah.
Said that he studied mathematics. His first love was he got his master's degree in mathematics. Imagine that, right? So let's get back to here, and I will stop sharing. I wanted to show you that because, again, it ties back to what I told you about Alma literally saying there is a tsunami coming. And there it is in Trump's cross. It literally says a tsunami. The tsunami of this battle that is being waged right now, which is the crisis that we are facing, which the founders were warning us about a coming economic, cultural, political, religious tsunami. It's all going to be pulled down, and it's his job to do it, whether you like it or not. Why? To be honest, if Harris had got in or Biden was still in, nothing would have changed.
Right.
It would have
The
just
pattern
stayed
is there.
4 years, 4 years, this puppet, that puppet. It's all managed from behind the scenes, and that's what this book is about. It's all there's a there's a whole thing of there's a villain in this whole story that's talking about it's all managed behind the scenes by the deep state, and so it wouldn't have changed. So whether you like it or not, Trump's job is to break it all down. I don't think he's doing it thinking he's doing it for good. He's doing it for his own power, but whatever, he's doing it. I will tell you that there is a silver lining to all this, which I cannot name, but the actual declaration does predict who will be the next president, 2028. And once he actually announces, then I'll be free to say it. But for now, can't say it.
So we are going through Yeah. It's in there.
It says it's in there. So how do we deal with this? It's just, you've got these various things going on. How much time do we have, or do you want to ask some questions?
Oh, we can continue. I want to just go back.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, I want to go back to a few things real fast. So again, math is discovered, not invented. So the constants in the universe are discovered. That's it. We don't create them, right? And then going back, mind to body is math to physics. We're getting that again. And then we are living patterns. There's patterns all around us.
Yeah.
So
mathematics itself is discovered.
Yeah.
It's not invented. John Dee said, everything is number. The entire structure of the universe is all based on number at one level. But the beauty of it is that's down at this tick, 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 way down there. So, right? It's mathematics, it's science. But once you get to here, you can have a flower, you can have a rose, you can have the ocean, you can have hairs in your head. You have the beauty, the poetic side. All right, I skipped over it. Let me go back to what you wanted to talk about. We get together. Mm-hmm. After I'm back from India, we all say, hey, let's get together for lunch. It ends up being a dinner in Los Angeles. And you start telling me, I don't know, we were there 2-3 hours or whatever, about Reed Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, who's that? Oh, he's the commander of the Artemis II mission. What's that? I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know what the Artemis II mission was because it wasn't getting a lot of press, right? The world's tired, moon, yeah, whatever. It wasn't on the It's not on the move. What's on the news? But you're going, oh, he's a friend of mine, and blah, blah, blah. And I go, what the? Huh? We're going back to the moon? You spark. I thought I was done. Yeah, I got to tell this whole story. I come back from India. I'm sitting here. It's May. I know I've got to write the book. I know it's got to come out sometime before July 4th. I know that it's essentially delivering all this stuff. But I think nobody's going to want to read a book that's all full of mathematics and geometry. And I don't know how to write it. And I sat here for 5 months getting download after download after download, tons and tons and tons of more information, and going, yeah, but where am I going to put this? And it's all about spiritual truth and the balance of left and right hemispheres of the brain. And I love it, but I can't expect the general public to read a book. I didn't know how to write it. And I was just literally doing nothing but getting more information and more frustrated. And I don't know what to do. And I get, as usual, my intuition usually comes from dreams or direct from meditation or just from literally some sudden intuition that goes, I know this is, and I go there and it is, and it's there. And how do I explain that? It's from my connection to Yogananda, and I don't proselytize again, but I mean, that's what happens for me. Everybody else has their own particular ways. I'm not saying you should do Kriya Yoga, but that's what happens to me. So it's September. 5 months have gone by. I haven't written a word. And I get this intuition, like I'm talking with Yogananda in this room here, like you do, like an invisible friend is there. That's how I talk to him. I'm going, what am I going to do? And he says, chill out, go watch a movie. What movie? I have Netflix and I have Prime, and everything I watch is rubbish. I'm so tired of movies. No, there's a new movie out. Check it out. And I go on Google and I see this new movie that's out, and it's called Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, starring Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. Now, it was September the 18th, and this is significant. An advanced showing of the official opening night, and I go along. I just watch it, the very first possibility. I love it. It's a fantasy. It's total fantasy. It's impossible. It's written as just a fantasy thing. No need to explain it. Died a death. It didn't last more than a week in the theaters. Everybody hated it, panned it. I loved it. I get home, and the next morning I hear Yogananda say, write it like that. I go, like what? like a fantasy. Instead of you presenting what you found, imagine there's a young boy, a teenager, living with his father and grandpa in Washington, D.C., and he has lucid dreams in which he finds himself in John Dee's alchemical sanctuary. And he's given the secrets hidden in the Declaration by John Dee. And night after night, he receives more and more information from Dee in these lucid dreams. Write it like that. I resisted. I thought, that's not going to work. I mean, I'm serious. What's that going to do? And honestly, he just says, give it a shot. Just start writing it like that and see how you feel tomorrow. I started to write it. It kind of worked. I wrote it for another day. And before I knew it, 4 months later, I'd written the book like that. And I thought it was great. It turned out it really was only a first draft, but I'd written it. And then 3 weeks to 4 weeks later, you and I meet for dinner, and you give me this information. Artemis. I swear to God, I knew nothing about the Artemis mission. I had by now written that there is another child, a girl this time, having lucid dreams in France, and hers are delivered to her by Einstein. And he's giving her parts of the codes, and John Dee is giving the other kid, Ray, the parts of the codes. And her name given to me by, just this guy on the wall here. Literally, call her Marguerite. Okay. Because she's in France, and the Marguerite is the French name for a daisy. It's the daisy flower, and it comes from Old English, day's eye. It opens first of all in the morning when the sun's rays hit it. It's a kind of poetic. It's lovely. Call her Marguerite and have her nickname be Daisy. Okay, I write it into the story, and I then have already worked out. Honestly, this is nuts. I'd already got the girl's family history downloaded to me, that she's the great-grandchild of a Jewish family named Meistre, Meistre, which means master in German, but it also can mean rabbi. And the story is they escaped the Holocaust. This is her great-grandparents. They escaped the Holocaust and they flee to France. They changed their name from Meistre to Maistre, Maistre, an anagram of Artemis. I've already got her name being Daisy Maistre. You tell me about Artemis. I come back and I go, what the? Because she has a name that literally means days, the sun, and Maistre, the goddess of the moon. And the boy's name, meanwhile, I'd already been given it, is Ray Bowman, because I was told the story would make the connection later on to Apollo, god of the sun, who's known as the Bowman. And Ray, of course, is rays of the sun. This was already written. And I didn't know about the Artemis mission. And I come back and I'm going, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you give me this, which I am literally downloading? And then I find another piece of it and I realize, I've got to expand this story. I thought I'd finish in 4 months. It was a first draft, but there's a whole bit missing. And I realized I've got to make it about Apollo and Artemis, the male and the female, the sun and the moon, the left and right hemispheres, poetry and science. So now I start reconstructing it around that, but I can't put the book out because Artemis 2 mission is set for February, and then it gets postponed to March, and then it gets postponed further. And I think, what if it never goes up? I've written this whole story now during February and March that incorporates the results of this, which is going to become a big deal at the culmination of the whole book at the end that occurs in Mar-a-Lago with Trump. And I'm going, I can't put the book out now because I don't know what happens if it keeps on getting postponed and it never happens. So I'm going to need to rewrite the story. Finally, on April 1st, they go up and I realize, they've gone up and it's a success and it's back. So I can now finalize it all. But that involved me then writing a whole new section for the book based on you. Thanks a lot.
So actually, I recall something slightly different.
Well
Alan.
done, Ponch.
Yeah, it's let me. So this is what I recall. We were talking about 2001: A Space Odyssey, Kubrick that evening, and you brought up Bowman.
Yeah. I was on that for Ray Bowman for sure.
Yeah. So you were talking about I believe the protagonist of the movie is Dr. Bowman or Dave, right? So that's when you introduced.
Well, in Space Odyssey, it's Dave Bowman. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about
I
at
did
dinner.
already have that. You're quite right. I didn't have.
No. Yeah, but this is another connection that I think. I don't know how many signals are in the world what's going on here, but the conversation that night was about how Kubrick hired that actor kind of unseen to be in that role.
I was already deep into that. But I didn't know Artemis.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
then
know
you shared you were saying something like this person looks like somebody. I'm like, oh, let me show you a photo of Reed Wiseman, and Reed Wiseman and David Bowman kind of look alike
I'd
from the movie.
forgotten that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Yes.
and
man.
that's another. I didn't know about this part that you were just sharing with us because we were talking about the Space Odyssey that night, 2001.
No, I was locked into the Apollo part, and I was
Yeah,
thinking it was going to go to Space Odyssey at the end of this book. Now that's going to be in book 2 because it had to be postponed completely because the story changed. Once I realized Daisy Maestra is there, and oh my God, it's Artemis. So it became Phase 1, Apollo to Artemis, which is, of course, the subtitle of the book.
yeah.
Thanks for reminding me of that because, again, cloudy memory, but that's right.
But I think we're converging on this from different directions, right? So my role in that was just to go, we're going back to the moon, Artemis 2. It's a few months out. It's going to happen in May or something like that. And then I remember the conversation we had the next weekend. We left Los Angeles, and Saturday night we had a call the following Saturday night, and you had to go show us some things that were very important, and that was mind blowing. And we didn't share that with anybody, and I don't know where you are on that, but the connection is just insane.
Well, it is. I mean, to consider, you just blew my mind. I went, Artemis? Never heard of it. But then I get back to it and I realize I've already written Daisy Maestra to be a companion to Ray Bowman. The Ray Bowman Apollo part was there. I just didn't know there was a thing called Artemis. But in the book, they end up finding out that they are twins. They were separated at birth because of this whole other subplot where the father and the grandfather are Grandmaster Masons and are being hounded by their MK Ultra handlers from way back when they screwed with Pops's brain. And that's all part of the story. But you think it just comes down to, it is written, you're just really taking, I'm transcribing, I'm a scribe. It's not false humility to say I didn't write this. I mean, yeah, I have a part in it. I'm nudging it into place. I'm doing a certain amount of creativity. But literally day by day, every chapter gets given to me and I go, really? Okay. But that's the fun of it. It's like, you don't know where it's going. It's like you're reading it for the first time yourself, the thrill. I just want to be able to convey that thrill to the readers. I hope they get the same joy that I got in the writing of it. And so that was enormous. That was a big deal. I don't know if I should go here, but
Let's do this. We need to pause real fast because we have a lot of feedback.
Can I say something too?
Give me some questions.
Yeah, let's fix something first. Let's pause. So I'm getting a lot of feedback right now at the moment from you got a lot of background noise around you, Alan.
Yeah, it sounds like or maybe.
You're right. Somebody's doing some work, and I can't do a thing about it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just really loud. I can hear it. I don't know if you'll be able to edit that out. I just want to make sure
it's.
Might
be able to edit it out through low frequency. It's a very low. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah, it should work as long. I can hear you fine. I just want to make sure that we're there. Okay, so we'll just mark that. All right, back to it.
I just wanted to say that we've all, who hasn't experienced, I went to the church and I was hoping to make amends with them for having scanned the altar. But that's another thing that your viewers right now don't know about. So they'd have to go and see all my work, or go and check out something called the Stratford Heist, where I did something. That's a whole other story. We won't go there. I just want you to know there's a part of the story that's equally important. That date that I saw, the big, bold, beautiful journey, was September 18th, a pre-release of the movie. 47 years, almost to the day, September 16th, 47 years earlier. And think about that number, 47, because it comes up again and again and again. Trump is the 47th president. September 16th, 1978. Let me get my notes on this to make sure I got it exactly right. Yeah, I want to get this date correct because that date, 47 years prior, was the date that the Grateful Dead played their concert at the Great Pyramid during a total lunar eclipse that lasted 5 hours. And their intention there that night, September 16th, they did a concert and they were wanting to actually physically levitate the pyramid. Of course, they were all on acid, so, but maybe on some level they did raise the vibration of it. I'm sure that's quite possible. But they were doing that. And I only realized recently when I did the notes on this, thought, well, I saw this movie, this big, bold, beautiful journey, 47 years off by 2 days. But then that same date, September 16th, 1978, is the exact date, the exact time that I had my experience in the desert, which I think I described to you in episode 113, where I was thrown into unity consciousness. I was given a taste of divine consciousness. I was in a totally
Alan, I
different
think
state.
you told me. I don't think Ponch has heard the story. It's pretty remarkable.
We heard a little bit about this on a call with I'll say his name, Dan Holland. Yeah, can you share that here?
The cliff notes are this. I was in America trying to get another record deal. I'd been on 4 record deals at this time. I'd been dropped from all of them for being what's the word? An asshole. That's right. I'd been dropped for being very hard to work with. And they tried to change my name. I'm Alan Green, then I'm Tommy Blue, then I'm Tommy Rainbow, then I'm Matt Jack, then I'm Arlen Green, then I'm Arlen Day, and all these things together. They changed my name so many times. I was tired of the whole process. And I was in America trying to get a new record deal after having literally been dropped from 4 labels. And mostly my own fault for being very, very, very hard to work with, but also stupid A&R people at the record labels as well, not recognizing my immense talent. So I am at the depth of despair. I am tremendously in debt. I borrowed money from friends. I'm here in America. I'm trying to get a record deal. My system for generating a new deal wasn't working anymore. I used to think I could just manifest. And I'm driving back across America to face, oh, thank you. They closed it up. Thank you. And I'm driving back. A friend had loaned me a gas card. I had no money. I had come to LA to get a new record deal because it wasn't working in England, and Sex Pistols were top of the charts, and I couldn't compete with that. I write melodies, and I wasn't into punk or funk. It wasn't going to happen. Punk, I mean, not funk. So I had approached 30 record labels. They had all said, oh, fabulous, we love your music, but none of them ever got back to me because I had been dropped by Clive Davis of Arista for not doing what he wanted me to do. And you don't say that to Clive Davis, you obey. And sure, I could have been a rock star then if I'd obeyed Clive Davis and let him put out a certain record, but I wouldn't let him do it. And now I didn't know where I was. I was at the end of my rope. And I'm driving across Texas back to LA thinking I've got to turn this car in. My American Express card doesn't work anymore. I owe money on the car. I have nothing. I think I'm going to jail. Debtor's prison or something. I had no particular spiritual experiences at that time, and I was very promiscuous, and I was smoking dope, and I was doing all the usual rock and roll stuff, except I wasn't a rock and roll star. I was just pretending I was. So I'm driving back, and all of a sudden I hear this voice inside, and it was sufficiently, I don't know Yogananda yet. I don't know any of that. I'm literally, what am I, 20? I'm almost 30 years old. And this voice says, Alan, when you're playing a new song for a group of friends, like 12 or 13 people sat around the piano, and you're doing your thing, and 10 or 11 of them are loving it, but one person isn't paying any attention, you get really upset, don't you? Busted. Yeah. I think, what's the matter with this person? Pearls before swine. I'm giving you my best stuff here. Well, I'd be focused on the one person that wasn't listening. Yeah. And now I'm beginning to get suspicious. Who is this voice? What is this? But I kind of know. But I don't. How come you've always said you can manifest your next record deal? It's you do it. You've got the power. And now it's not working, is it? All those who you think turned off those 30 record labels who all loved your stuff, and now they haven't even answered your call. You? Yeah. I don't get upset. Said, I'm playing this song all the time. And it was as though a hand went across the windshield. Everything changed. I could see the stars in the midday sky. I could see the sap racing in the trees. I could see electrons in the steering wheel. And I was in utter unity consciousness. I knew I was one with everything, and it was stunning. And I've never even, nothing like this had ever happened to me. And I felt a peace and a joy and a bliss that I cannot begin to describe. And I'm driving slower and slower and slower, and the voice says, I'm playing this song all the time, and hardly anybody's paying attention. But I don't get upset, because I have infinite patience, and I love you more than you can possibly imagine. And now you know that you are one. You and I are one with everything. Now, I'm driving slow. I'm driving 10 miles an hour by now on the on the interstate highway, and I pull over and I fall out of the car and I fall into the grass and I am in bliss. And I look up and there's a plane has made a what do you call it? The contrails.
Contrail? Mhm.
Right, like this, and another plane comes across right at that moment. I look up and makes a cross right over me. And I said at that point, I surrender. I surrender. It's you. I thought it was me all along, and it's true, I've never asked you to help me get a record deal. And I get back in the car and I'm driving, and the voice is saying, do you think the being that is making this all the time in such perfection can't get you a record deal? Why don't you ask me? And I knew, I said inwardly, I can't, because that means I will lose control. I want to be in control. Well, hasn't worked so far, has it? You're going back to LA with no money. What's going to happen? And I realized, and I said, okay. I surrendered. He says, what do you want? I said, you know what I want? I want a record deal. Okay, done. You got it. What else do you want? And I did a quick mental calculation of what money I owed to my friends and what money I would need to live for the next year and write the album that would talk about this experience. And I knew it would be called I Surrender. And I said, and I knew I could ask, honestly, I knew I could ask for $1 million. It's only zeros, but I didn't. I asked for what I needed. I said, I need $60,000. And said, okay, done. And I knew it was done. There was not a doubt anywhere in my mind. It was as solid as just I knew it, because I was in that state of it's impossible that the creator of this can't just answer my, ask and ye shall receive. I pull off the freeway. At the next stop, I drive into this town. I go to the first church I see. I run in and I prostrate myself at the altar. I don't know what denomination it was. And I'm crying myself silly. I'm utterly, I'm a mess, but I'm in a great mess. And a priest or a vicar or whatever he was comes up to me and puts his hand on, are you okay, my son? And I said, yes. Yeah. Yes, I just found God. Oh, he was so happy. It made his day. I found God. Oh, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it blessed, my son? And I said, yeah, it is. And I went and checked into the nearest motel across the street and slept for the best sleep I've had in months and months and months. And I remember thinking and saying to this power at the time, please still be here when I wake up. Don't leave. Don't leave. Please. I need sleep, but please still be here. I must have slept for 14 hours. I woke up and it was still there. That bliss lasted for 4 months. I got back to LA. I was sleeping on the couch of a friend and the phone rang, but my friend wasn't there. I picked up the phone and it said, is Arlen Green there? That's the last name that they had given me on Clive Davis's label. I said, yeah. He said, this is Richard Perry. Now, the part I missed in the story, I had just before I left LA, I had broken into Richard Perry's home. Richard Perry is the producer of Harry Nilsson, Barbra Streisand, Ella Fitzgerald, Ringo Starr, everybody, every major thing you can think of. I found out where he lived. I broke into his home. I buzzed his doorbell. He came to the door. I gave him my tape. I said, please listen to this. He freaked out. He said, I'm going to call the police if you don't get out right now. I said, I know, I'm sorry. It's the wrong way to do it, but I am good. And I was signed to Clive Davis, blah, 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 blah. But now I'm free and I should be on your label, The Balls. And I drive away. Now it's a month later. I'm coming back and he phones me. And he said, I just heard your album yesterday. I just heard it yesterday. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet. He said, it's some of the best stuff I've heard in years. I want to offer you a record deal. Come to my home. You know where I live. I get a record deal. Do you know how much they paid me? $60,000 advance. And I was in that state for 4 months. And when it eventually faded, I knew that it was real and I had to find it. And I was bereft. And I went and searched and searched and searched until I found this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I saw Yogananda's face. That's it. And I got the lessons and I signed up for Kriya Yoga. And then I found that I could get into that state through Kriya Yoga. And that's been 45 years now of doing Kriya Yoga. The point about that story is surrender. It's not that I can't do it. It's not that only God can do it. It's both. You need to be co-creating with the creator. And that's what the founders are saying in this. We've given you some man-made codes here. Matlack's put a mistake here, a mistake there, and it's golden ratio and it's mathematical. And all that's been worked out by us. That's men did that. But distance Earth to moon and Earth to sun, and those aren't we know that, but those are God codes. What's the difference? Why wrap your head around, try to wrap your head around, did Ben Franklin know? Literally, he's putting President Donald Trump, Pope Leo XIV. No, but he's being guided from behind the scenes for it just to all work out. It's both, because there really truly is no difference. Because when I sat holding Alma's hand, and all I could feel is we are just old friends, and that space allowed her to utterly, spontaneously heal my rotator cuff instantly. I haven't had an MRI since, so I don't know if I've got a rotator cuff or I don't know, but I know that I'm healed. I mean, it's like, it's both. You work hand in hand. We are co-creators. There is no difference. It's just a difference in your remembering who you truly are. And so that story is important. But guess what? The moment that happened, that I lay on the grass in Texas and said, I surrender, was September 16th, 1978. At that very moment, the Grateful Dead were playing their concert at the Great Pyramid, and there was a lunar eclipse.
Wow.
At that very moment. And I was not into Grateful Dead until what? Nearly 47 years later, I meet Wendy Weir, Bob Weir's sister, and we become deep friends, and she's the real deal. So what's the message? It's the same message. We are one. And whether you can understand it or not, whether you understand what is in this, whether you understand how 1776 is non-negotiable, the mathematics wouldn't work in any other year. It couldn't be any other year.
For
16.
infinity.
Yeah. It had to be then. It was destined. It was predestined. It was written. And thus the 250th anniversary of what we're going through right now is written. And we don't need proof. We read the news every single day. There's a battle going on between Trump and Leo, and they are perfect foils to each other. And I'm going to sit back and watch and have popcorn and see what happens, because the Declaration says that's his job. He's doing a good job of utterly bringing a wrecking ball to America, so that someone will take over when the whole shebang is just laying there in ashes, and say we need to start again, and let's get back to how this country was truly founded in the beginning, to these principles of nature's laws of God, the building blocks of creation, the science, the mathematics under it, the poetry, the beauty of it, put it all together. Just work by the golden rule. We know what we should do. Just treat others as you would like to be treated. It's not hard. Forget this greed, this idea that we are living in lack. There's no energy. Get worried about that. Oh, there's no money. Get worried about that. Oh, right. No, it's just not true. That's the forces that want to keep you in bondage here as a slave. They wanted to end slavery. They put it into the document, even though they couldn't manage it themselves. It wouldn't have happened because of the southern colonies, but they put in St. Augustinian, Fort Mose, the first ever sanctuary for freed slaves or escaping slaves, and in the first ever marriage is between a white and a black person. This is what the country was founded on. Truly. And we need to get back to that. And that's the message, because we are one. And beyond that, chill out. Don't worry, because the mathematics of it that underlies it all tells you there is a perfection in it that you cannot even conceive of. And that should give you hope and comfort that, okay, yeah, it looks like it's all going to hell in a handbasket, but nah, it is a drama. There wouldn't be a story without a villain and a hero, and right, the eternal story, right? The hope, the eternal. It's so perfect.
I want to emphasize a few things again. One, going back to the artist. Artist is one who allows art to realize its purpose through him. So that's what artists do, right? That's the purpose comes through us into whatever work we create, and that's what you just went through. The second thing is we talk about how living systems engage with the environment. They co-create what's next, right? We talked about actants being things like the platonic space, the story you just shared with us about being in bliss for 4 months. That came through you. That was a co-creation of you, the agent, and the environment, an
Yeah.
actant or another agent. So what I want to emphasize that because I don't think the reason I know you, the reason we were having these conversations is because the divine brought us together to have these conversations. We are, and I want to go back to what Bart said to me years ago, which was, what are we going to do about this? And this is what we can do about it. We can have these conversations and make people aware about what exists, right? And it's not to say, you bring up something about Trump, and I want to point out something. The truth is different than the facts. The facts are we are going through these things. These are things that are we have I'll bring up debriefing. In debriefing, we look at what's happening and try to remove our beliefs away from that. And those beliefs can be our truths. My truth is I think we did this because of that. Well, that's a kind of like an attitude, right? The truths are what you shared with us, those things that are in the declaration. I don't care why they're there, right? But they're there, if that makes sense. And that if you start there as a listener and go, okay, I'll surrender to this and go, I'll push that button that says, yeah, it's there, then that's enough. Now, your truth can be anything around that. And I want to invite our listeners to go ahead and say, okay, Ponch, Alan, and Bart just took us through this journey that connected to things on outside information, actants, the platonic space, the divine, Rivera, and this co-creation of this thing we're all experiencing, and we're all one. So if all of that's true, which it is, I mean, I have no doubt that it is, then it is entirely possible, and it is likely that these patterns are emerging all around us, and that's okay. And that allows us to be more attuned to the environment. And I don't remember we talked about the day of Brahma, and there was another cycle that you brought up too.
Precession of the equinox, 24,000 years cycle.
Right, there we go. So we're going through these cycles, and we had this great technology 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. And that's kind of where we are. Again, we're going to create these things, and it may connect to UAPs. It may connect to non-human intelligence. It may connect to so many things. So again, it's just our invitation to our listeners to go, okay, let's push these, identify that these are truths, that they exist, but why they exist, I don't know. I really don't know, but they are there. That's where I am at the moment on this journey. They're there.
Yeah. I'd like to just, well, I agree with everything you said, and it's just, yes, I'm not saying it's necessarily simple to just drop all of our fears and our preconditioning, but that's what they're asking us to do in this. They're saying, it is so far beyond what you can truly calculate. We're showing you things that you can actually follow up and calculate, and they knew somebody was going to do this and spot the mistakes and work out the math and that part of it. But the deeper part is beyond our present ken, as you would say, but it's undeniably there. What I would like to ask your viewers and your followers to please just right now, you can find all the information about this you want in a couple of places, and Brian will put them all up at the end of this so that you know where to go for my various websites. But the main one that is being launched right now is theamericacodes.com. Very simple. And you go there, and there's a button that you can click on that says the wait list. It's a wait list just to go there and say, I want to get the book when it's actually released. Right now, it's done. It's sitting there. but I don't want it released before August 2nd at the moment. I might change for various reasons. It could come earlier. I can drop the button on it anytime and say, no, let's release it tomorrow. But I have a strategy that's kind of important that I don't necessarily think is important to go into and explain to everybody. But the point is, there's two versions of the book. You can get the digital version, and you can see that right now. If you go online and go Alan Green, The America Codes, you'll see the ebook, and you can get it for $3. And that's it. It's a digital version, and it has all the images of all the codes, everything clear, high resolution, full color. In this book that's printed in black and white, you wouldn't be able to see all those as clearly as you want to. And you read this book more as a narrative, as this fantasy, and just enjoy the ride. If you want to then see there are some images in here that are absolutely critical, like the first things that I showed you, so that people understand this is not me just talking nonsense. It's based on fact, and it's in the declaration, and it's in the grid, and you can see them. But they're in black and white, and they're not that clear. You can go to theamericacodes.com, click on a button, and see all of everything that you would get in the digital version as well, in full color, and you can follow along if you're into the math. But I understand that, I know 90% of people are not really into the depth of the mathematics, but for those that need it, they need it. They will want to know the proof. Otherwise, how can I believe what Alan is saying? So they're both available. Click on it. I would really appreciate it if as many people as possible could just, buy the $3 version. The reason it's being held for a while is Amazon has this system where as those orders build up, and then we drop the button and say, I release it now, then for one day, you're top of the charts in Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And that helps the algorithms. That just helps. Obviously, at some point, I'd like people to buy the physical book. But both of those, you can go to theamericacodes.com, go sign up for the wait list, and that will put you on our newsletter. We will then give you a whole series of other ways that you can connect. And above all, one of the other things that I did not get to mention at all is that in the midst of all this, when I was finally at the point well, just a couple of months ago, somebody approached me and just gave me a TV series. So I'm going to be doing the America Codes TV series. We will start filming it in August or September. It'll be coming out at the end of the year. A whole different way of viewing the phenomenon. So there's three ways. You've got the book. You've got still the America Codes video course series that Bart had signed up for, back in 2024. That's a very deep dive, and that you can get online. But the TV series is basically, I think you can get it for free, but I think it's also, you'll click on a link and it's, I don't know what it is, $4.95 a month or something. The intention of this new platform called Spark is they want to be a Gaia for everybody without a paywall. So there's that. So but all of that information is centralized on theamericacodes.com. If you would just sign up for the wait list and let us know that you want to be on our newsletter and get all the information. That's the best way you can help. Beyond that, of course, we want to start a community. We want to start a discussion about what does this mean. So there are deeper levels where, again, the information will be on there. If you want to have different levels, private Zoom calls with me from time to time, those are things that you can get into, and you'll see the different levels that you can enter into. But the main thrust is, of course, what do we do with this information? We don't want to just read it and go, oh, that's great. You want to actively put it to use to say, because this is a roadmap for how do we get out of this crisis. It's not, it's going to happen the way it is predicted, and we can see it day by day, and nothing's going to stop that. Trump's going to do what he's going to do, and it looks like he's dismantling the whole thing. How bad it will get by the end of his term, nobody knows. But the point is it bad? Is it bad? I truly believe it's the only way that we could possibly rebuild this marvelous experiment from the ground up, with someone who takes the reins and says, all right, let's get all together and do this properly this time.
Yeah. So I want to bring up some of the key crises that we're watching, and that,
Yeah,
we have a debt
absolutely.
crisis. We're printing money.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for a while.
Well,
That devalues so many things. That raises inflation. Bart can talk about this too. We have a deep state. We have something going on, the blob out there that some people call it. They're creating these conditions, and it's not that they're bad people. It's a system that's driving these behaviors, and that system needs to go through a cycle of destruction and creation.
absolutely.
And we have to destroy it to create it. And that's what John Boyd's OODA loop is really about. It's cycles of destruction and creation. That's what that animation was about that I showed earlier, that we have that
Yeah, it was
yin
good.
and yang and alpha and omega.
Yeah.
That is, it's okay. But the other, and you can say that Trump's destroying it or Trump's at the top of this. It's happening. What's happening is happening.
Just,
And everything behind it is path dependent. We had
Yeah.
MK Ultra. We had you name it. We had the assassination of JFK. We've lived through all this stuff. We had the suppression of psychedelics in the 60s and 70s. We have the pharmaceutical companies going a little crazy out there, I would say. But again, it's the system driving the behaviors, right? We had a upside down food pyramid. We have fraud going on. There's all. If you're not paying attention to what's going on, well, just pay attention to what's happening outside, and that means you have to let new information in. Don't get fixated on one news outlet. Tune into some podcasts. There's some great podcasts out there. There's great people talking about interesting things. They might seem a little outlandish. They might seem a little wooish, but it's okay. It doesn't mean these are 100% truths. They are how we explore and expand and go to the next level, right? We don't get to the next level by listening to, what happened 20 years ago. We don't fight the next war by fighting last century's war or the last war we fought. That's something we learned in the military. That's what's happening now. We have a drone thing happening in the UK or Ukraine. When that gets here in the US, that's really bad. All right. As a retired military officer, I will tell you 0-day war is terrifying. And if you don't understand 0-day war, go look at John Robb's work on that. What does it look like when these drones are embedded around us and they can attack us here? So this isn't just about Trump. And I want to make sure our listeners are clear of that. Trump happens to be in the White House and all of these things are going on. President Harris could have been in the White House and all these things would be going on, right? And the timing of it is 250 years. Here we are. It's just time to wake up and pay attention. And we're asking folks, that's why we're doing this podcast. And I think that's why Bart reached out to me years ago. I think it was 2021, right around COVID time. What are we going to do about this? And this is all we can do. We can't do much more than just help get the word out. Bart?
Yeah, I mean, every time, like I said, I've had a front row seat to be with Alan. I think, there's two things, Ponch, to wrap up my portion. The first thing is as Alan was showing the anagrams, I'm just like outside information. It's outside information. And how you've taught me about the OODA loop and what it really is about, my hope is that the America Codes really helps reorient us all to the power of the Declaration of Independence, and that people see the through line of what Alan has been able to do, the through line being from the Old Testament to the New Testament to the Declaration of Independence. That's the three, right? That's the 3 in 1. And so these rights are guaranteed. And I had Alan sign the book, it's called Shakespeare Decoded, and he signed it and he just said eternal truths. And so right now we have 8.5 billion people with all their different perceptions. They're all listening to different inputs, right? Our senses, what do we call these? Ponch sense organs, not our eyes, our sense organs, right, are being bombarded. Nobody really understands what truth is. And, what is it? And Ponch and Alan, I think I told you, I just go 51-49. I never go to all the way to 100%. Yes, that's got to be true. Or all the way to 0. That's totally wrong. I'm like, I don't know. If I agree with you, I'll give you 51 because I'm not going out there. But what we're talking about here with the America Codes and the portal that is the Declaration of Independence is eternal truth. And it's about we are all one, we being the people, and we are given guaranteed life. None of us have even thought about breathing while we've been on this podcast. It's guaranteed. We're given liberty. It's supposed to be guaranteed. I don't think we have that anymore. I used to think my thoughts were my freedom, but with MK Ultra, people can control those thoughts, right? So that means it's time for the revolution. It's time for we, the people, to understand that we were all created equal. But I think the key thing for me was the pursuit of happiness. And just like I talked about life is guaranteed, we take it for granted. Just like like Alan was talking about, I play this symphony every day. and no one pays attention. I was with Alan. We were walking back the other week, and he stopped, and we were in a deep thought, and we actually looked at a flower, and he looked at me and he said, "How can this not be divinely produced?" And I looked at it and I was like, unbelievable, right? So it's the pursuit of happiness. And that's where I think we all need to understand that darkness is not the absence of light, it's the absorption of all of it, right? And light is not the absence of darkness, it's the absorption of darkness. So Yeshua says, who are we to cast the first stone? What I've learned, having done this walk with Alan over the past year, is everything is balanced. It is perfect, perfect. Right. So I always pictured myself picking up the stone. I'd already judged that person. But what I really think Jeshua's message is, don't pick up the stone. Because when we realize that good and evil have to exist, like it's the balance. That's this third dimension, right? Then we can transcend and no longer judge and see the game and now start seeing that all men are created equal, right? And so, unfortunately, what I believe, and this is just my opinion, is all of this is being exposed now. This darkness, this corruption, this anger, all of this is being exposed now so the light can absorb it. So I'm not afraid. I'm excited. And I mean, Alan asked me, he goes, what does Memorial Day mean to you? And I wrote to him and I said, this is what it means to me. And I'll be honest with you, before I started down this path, I didn't vote. I was so disgusted with what's going on. But now I know what it's about. It's peaceful and it's we the people. And it's time for the revolution to occur. It's like you have no control over me. We're equal, and we're going to treat everybody like equal. And then to one last point with Alan, right? Ponch and I, Alan, we've done a lot of work, right, with the psychedelics and meditation and all these things we're talking about. And so I really started thinking, don't say the Lord's name in vain. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of say it every once in a while. But then I started thinking to myself, Joshua says, know ye your gods. Okay, don't say the Lord, don't say God's name in vain. Also says, love your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. All right, trying, work in progress, right? I'm only human. It also says, love your neighbor.
Well, you're only human.
Yeah, so
just don't say you're only human.
That's true. I am human. Thank you, Alan. But where I'm going with this is, we are all connected. Love your neighbor as yourself. You are a God, and love your God with all your heart, mind, your soul. It comes down to love yourself. So stop blaming everybody else. Stop getting angry at everybody else. All of that is just a reflection of the internal battle that you're having. So you need to come to love your darkness just as much as you love your light. Once we do that, game over. So don't say the Lord's name in vain. Don't think negative thoughts about yourself.
I got a story that will just sum that up. I have to tell it.
I'm out. Thank you. That's me.
I got a sudden intuition a couple of months ago to contact an associate I hadn't spoken with in about 3 years. And again, when I get this intuition, I hear it's Yogananda's voice. I know it very well, and I don't question it. I go, okay, all right. But I thought, why should I contact this person? We haven't talked in 3 years. But it's his voice and it's insistent, so I text this person. Something simple like, hey, what's happening? Haven't spoken in so long. Let's connect. I swear, 2 hours later, the person calls me and says he's producing a new TV series. Would I like to be a guest on it? We're filming in 2 days' time. You can talk about whatever you're working on now. Got anything? Just like that. An opportunity to promote the upcoming book, right? But this is, before it's finished. Great, I say. Yes, of course. 2 days' time, I'm going to be on a show, interviewed, and I can talk about whatever I want. Cool. The night before the scheduled interview, I receive a contract to sign and project details, where and when to show up, what time is makeup, what time is filming, and who else is on the roster that evening. Now, I didn't start by telling you we all have probably, who's got some axe to pick with someone in their life who has betrayed them, who has hurt you, who has, you think, stolen from you and done you wrong, and you're all bitter about it. I mean, we all have it, right? It could be a love relationship. It could be a business relationship. It could just be a friend who suddenly stops being your friend. I mean, it's all there. It's life on earth. And I have a particular person that I had been bent out of shape for that thing for a long time, and I couldn't let go of it. And in my mind, bad blood. A lot of stuff that I'm not going to go into because I'm not here to litigate it in public. But the point is, I had that person, and I could not get rid of it. Every time the name came up, my stomach would churn, and I'd start whining and moaning about I did this and that. Right. So I get this. I get this thing in the email. Who else is on the show with you immediately after you? And you can guess who. I go, it's a setup. Of course. Yogananda would do this. We haven't seen each other in over 2 years. Bad blood has been brewing all that time. And Yogananda is saying, you have to deal with this anger. You have to get over this relationship. It's holding you back. And I've set it up for you to meet. I didn't like this. I did not want this at all. You've been harboring a grudge about how you feel you were betrayed and treated unfairly, etc. Whether true or not, you have got to forgive and forget and get on with your true job. This pain in your heart is holding you back with negative thoughts, and I've just set it up that you will have to meet and deal with it head on. Congratulations. Heavy, huh? Ever that happened to you? The very person you do not want to meet and deal with, you bump into them. Oh, shit. So I didn't want to do this, but I'm there and I'm going to do this show. And I go, oh, I know what's going on here. It fell in my lap within 48 hours of texting this guy, right? So that night, I literally was churning the ether. Please, God, let me be gracious. Please don't let me get angry. Please let me be kind and open and say it's all water under the bridge. It's gone. It's done. Let's get on with our lives. I still deep down love you for the friendship we once had. I wish you well. And I was going, please. And I was just churning. And I hardly slept that night. I'm serious. It went on for hours. I was praying like that. And after these hours, I was filled with love. And my heart was truly overflowing with goodwill and kindness. And I was in a good place. So I finally slept for a few hours. And the next day, as I drove to the studio, I kept it going. I was chanting and I was still doing the same thing. Please, I want to keep this. I don't want to screw up. Don't want to have a bad experience. Please, please, please. So I get to the studio and I'm on fire. I was in a great space. I was ready to meet this person. So I'm in makeup, and the woman fixing me up, she gets a call. She goes, oh, yeah? Okay, well, all right, fine, bye. What's up? I say. And she says, oh, the person that's supposed to follow you has just canceled at the last minute. Well, we have extra time to touch you up. So get this, because of the intense inner work that I did, which I would not have done if he was not showing up. I'd have gone in and I'd been nice Alan, and I'd be okay, I'd be my usual genial self, but I wouldn't have been where I was. So when we did the interview, it was on fire.
All right.
Both the interviewer and the interviewee were fabulous. And we had this great show, divine light pouring out from both of us. I had conquered the beast of my own egoic, self-centered, poor me victim. And it's an appropriate metaphor. St. George had appeared victorious, not over that person, but over the darkness within me that was holding me hostage until I could finally truly forgive and release and let go of it. In fact, knowing that it's all perfect what I think he did and all of that, but get rid of this stuff. Just be who you are. Get back on track. So I did that. And what was the result? 2 days later, the producer called me and offered me not one, but 3 of my own TV series. Number 1, the America Codes TV series, how the mystery behind the coding in the Declaration predicts the very crisis that we're facing right now, and how we can not only survive it, but rise from the ashes. 6 to 8 one-hour episodes we start filming in September. 2, after that, he said, let's do the Shakespeare codes, how the mystery surrounding the Renaissance polymath is prologue to the America story, and why his true identity had to be hidden, because it's part of the same story. 6 to 8 one-hour episodes we start filming in early 27. And 3, the full spiritual story, behind why these two mysteries are really one and the same story, whose purpose is to get us back on track to not only understanding, but living the truth that we are one. And we'll start filming that probably around summer of next year. So I told you that as a cautionary tale. You prompted me to tell it, Bart, because literally that's exactly what you were saying. I could have stayed stuck in a bad place, but I was mercifully forced to confront that ordeal. And doing so, I stripped away every illusion about what I was, here to do. It stopped me lingering in the past of the perceived injustices, and it propelled me back toward the work I was always here to do in the first place. The Shakespeare codes, the America codes, and finally, to decode ourselves and realize who we truly are, divine, infinite beings, living in a material world, yes, with a divine mandate to raise consciousness and thereby fulfill our own unique, infinite potential. It could only come about by forgiving and being open, and thank God I got past it. I was forced to.
Well, I
Well
think
done.
that's a great place to wrap up, and we'll end there. That was amazing. Thank you.
Well, it's the same for all of us. It's the same story for all of us. It's
Been
hard.
a fun ride.
Well, I'll keep you on.
And it's just starting.
Yeah.
I remember when we first did your show, I said, I'll answer anything, but don't mention that person, right?
Yeah.
Remember I said that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I don't want to go there, right? I was still in bad shape about it, right?
Yeah. Well, we know who it is. I don't think our listeners know, so we'll leave it at that. But it's a great place. Yeah. They don't. It's
no. It doesn't matter.
We'll wrap it up there. I'll keep you online here for a moment, but thank you so much for this conversation. I know we'll have more.
That's
Ponch,
great.
thank you, dude.
Yeah. Thank you, Ponch, very, very, very much. I treasure our friendship. This is something I've done an awful lot of podcasts, but I haven't become close friends with any of them in particular. And I credit, that's because we got together. We said, let's get together and find out about each other and our stories. And wow, when I saw you, Ponch, do that presentation that you sent me, I mean, you are an incredible speaker, and you delivered it. It's just like
Appreciate
it goes
that.
both ways. It goes both ways. And Bart's not bad either.
Well, we're here for a reason, so it's amazing. Thanks again, Alan. I'll keep you on here for a second, but we'll end it there. So bye, everybody. Hopefully you tune in and have a happy 4th of July.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. Thank you.